watching NRATV. And now, We Stand with Dan Bongino.
Welcome back to We Stand with Dan Bongino, and a special welcome to the people at Vice News. Vice News, a lefty-leaning, whatever they are, blog or whatever, who tuned into my show yesterday. Thanks. I just wish you guys would include the website and the time when you promote our stuff. So thank you. And thanks to Media Matters, which is here, I think, every day. And again, just include the website, you lefties. If you want to report on my stuff, I'm cool with that. But the website, the time, do a little free promotion. We don't want to have to pay for it. I mean, come on, if you're going to put it up there for free, give us a little courtesy. Today's show is really going to scramble your eggs, so pay attention, all you liberal bloggers out there. This one's going to blow your mind. Now, I have to be candid with you. I was a little anxious about today's show, but not for the reasons you think. I don't care about being on camera and any of that stuff. With a face like this, you don't worry too much about being on camera. And I don't mean that as a compliment to myself either. Look at his jawline. Come on. I mean, it looks like a cinder block, right? I'm a little anxious because it's going to be a complicated show, but it's an important show. Yesterday's show was a little more straightforward, pointing out how conflicted Jim Comey was and how Jim Comey has a history of dishonesty. I showed you the video yesterday. Today's show is going to be a dismantling of the myth that Bob Mueller is not connected. Now, listen. Bob Mueller had a history of service with the country, and that's great. I appreciate his service. There have been some conflicts in the past with Bob Mueller, but Bob Mueller is not a conflict-free, nonpartisan actor in this entire event here. Bob Mueller is a special counselor right now investigating Donald Trump, who has deep, profound, troubling conflicts with people involved in this investigation, and some of them who were involved deeply with the Obama White House. I'm going to go into this today for one very important reason. It's crystal clear to me now that the Obama team spied on the Trump team. Okay, that's not open for interpretation. They unmasked them. CNN themselves has reported on foreign intelligence spying on the Trump team and giving information to the Obama team. None of that is in any way up for dispute, if you believe in things like facts, that is. The problem I have with the Mueller special counsel is some of the very same people who were involved in the operation to spy on and try to dirty up the Trump team. Some of those same people have pre-existing significant relationships with people involved in the investigation into Donald Trump now. Bear with me. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to put some headlines up for you. I'm going to make this make sense. But if you have to, watch the show again twice. We don't get extra credit for it, but this is an important show. All right, let's put up headline number one. All right, this is an article from the Daily Caller by Sidney Powell, who's a former federal prosecutor, as you can see there. The headline of this is important. So is the photo. Swamp reunion. Obama's three muses reappear in Mueller's Trump investigation. Who are those people? That's Catherine Rumler to Obama's right. Right to his left is Lisa Monaco, and on his far left is Susan Rice sitting in the Oval Office discussing something with Obama. We don't know what. It doesn't really matter. It's probably a file picture. Those three players are significantly involved and conflicted in this investigation and are also involved with people running the special counsel investigation into Trump. Now, does that seem right to you? That the political opponent of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, someone they probably can't stand, we know Hillary Clinton can't stand him, she's still talking about it. Does that sound right to you, that people who are in the Obama Oval Office, detailed, tier one players with the Obama team are involved in investigating Donald Trump, or at a minimum involved with the people who are involved in investigating Donald Trump? Does that sound right to you? It shouldn't. Let me give you a little background on this to show how deep this gets. On Catherine Rumler, put up that headline from the Boston Globe. There we go. Nice. Very good. Mueller witness is a convicted pedophile with a shadowy past. What the heck does that have to do with Catherine Rumler? This is really fascinating. Catherine Rumler, the person I just showed you pictured on the couch in the Oval Office with Barack Obama. What was her position, by the way? She was Barack Obama's lawyer. She was the White House counsel. Who is this guy, George Nader? This Mueller witness who is apparently cooperating in the special counsel investigation into Trump. George Nader is some kind of an international businessman with a checkered past who met with a Trump-connected person, not necessarily representing the campaign, but someone who had a background with Trump, Eric Prince. And this meeting in the Seychelles has become the topic of a Mueller investigation. because a Russian showed up. Some Russian businessman showed up at the deal, and the Mueller team, of course, is investigating Russian collusion. Here's what's strange about this. Who do you think the attorney representing this fella, George Nader, is? Again, who's cooperating with the Mueller team in the investigation against Donald Trump about a meeting they're questioning. You got it. Catherine Rumler, Barack Obama's old lawyer, his White House counsel. Now, I'll make the connection to Mueller in a minute. This story gets better. I'll connect Rumler, Mueller, and Mueller's number 2 in the special counsel, Andy Weissman. But Rumler is representing this businessman who's involved in a meeting that Mueller's questioning right now. What's she doing? Why is she representing him? Strange, isn't it? Put this quote up, this from Reuters next. It's fascinating how Rumler, she could be, I guess we could consider Rumler the fixer. Rumler was always Obama's fixer in the White House. She was the White House counsel. This is from Reuters. This is a fascinating quote. Now, remember what I told you before I read this. Don't let that get off the screen yet. Rumler was Obama's White House lawyer. Rumler was deeply involved in a number of the Obama administration, let's say, questionable deeds, the IRS, Benghazi. We'll go into this in a second. Yet Rumler's representing a guy cooperating with the Mueller special counsel now. Strange. Here's Rumler's role in the IRS scandal. This is from a Reuters piece. Counsel Rumler was told on April 24th about an upcoming report by TIGTA, Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, on the IRS practice for which an IRS official apologized on May 10th, triggering the controversy. Rumler knew about this. She knew about the IRS targeting. Same woman representing a guy cooperating right now with the Mueller team against Donald Trump. Now, I still haven't told you how she's connected to Mueller. I'm going to get to that because I'm getting a lot of feedback on this. I can tell already that you think, oh, so what's the problem? So she's a lawyer. She's representing a guy that's cooperating with Mueller. She also had a role in this IRS thing in the Obama White House, that debacle. Rumler, who was Obama's fixer, had a role in another scandal in the White House, too. Put up that BuzzFeed headline. Advisors urged Obama early on to release comprehensive Benghazi timeline. Hold on, before you put the quote up here from the piece. People within the White House, according to this BuzzFeed piece, has urged Barack Obama when the Benghazi attack happened, hey, release a timeline, put the information out there, let him know what you did. Somebody told Barack Obama, don't you do that. That could get us in a lot of trouble. Who was that person? Put up that quote from the BuzzFeed piece. Oh, Catherine Rumler, the fixer, who's representing a guy who's cooperating with Mueller. Those plans were quashed, however, when the White House counsel's office, led by Kathy Rumler, advised the officials to not release any information to the public out of fear it could be used against them in any subsequent investigations and other legal complications. Man, this Rumler, she is absolutely knee-deep embedded in a number of these little Obama controversies. Convenient, right? Crazy how she's representing that guy as well. It gets better. Put up that headline from Politico. By the way, notice how we're using left-leaning sites. So the hack leftists that watch my show and want to dismantle it, you'll have to go back and discredit Politico, BuzzFeed, Reuters, and the Boston Globe. Not me. I'm just putting up their own headlines. I'm doing this on purpose, by the way. Oh, look at that. Who's that? Kathy Rumler again. Kathy Rumler. She's the lawyer for Susan Rice. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Lawyer for Susan Rice, who's justifiably concerned about sharing intel with the Trump team. Catherine Rumler. Now, why would that come up? Who was the national security advisor under Obama who unmasked and basically spied on Trump team members? Oh, Susan Rice. Crazy. She's being represented by Rumler. And by the way, Rumler, the fixer, fascinating what Rumler's been involved in, by the way. Rumler issued a statement when Susan Rice was questioned about these unmaskings and the email she sent herself that said, hey, we were all asked to do this by the book. Put up that quote from the Politico piece. Sorry, I'm just getting a drink here. You're like, why isn't he talking? Rumler said Rice's conversation with Obama included no discussion of a disputed dossier alleging illicit contact between the Trump camp and Russia, written by a former British spy, that Republicans have alleged was misused by the FBI to spy on a Trump associate. Kyle Cheney, Politico. So Rumler is now representing Rice, who was in the Obama White House while they were spying on the Trump team, in a collusion scandal between Trump and the Russians that never happened, that's now being investigated by Bob Mueller, who's using a source that's represented by Rumler. You know, sometimes when I fix something in my house, which is rare, as I am about the least mechanically inclined human being you've ever met, my kids will sing a song. Daddy is a fixer. Daddy is a fixer. True story. It happens rarely because I can't fix anything. But once in a while, even a blind squirrel gets a nut. You think we found a fixer in this case? Oh, wait. We're not done. Rumler's knee-deep in all of this stuff. Kathy Rumler makes another appearance, again, with the Clintons this time. Crazy how this all works out. Put up that headline from the New York Post. Possible Clinton Foundation hack could expose treatment of top donors. Now, before we get to the quote from this piece, what went on here? The Clinton Foundation. Emails were tapped into in the Clinton Foundation, and the Democrats, I can't read to you the whole piece, so I had to select some quotes. I'll get to that in a second. But the core of this piece is that the Clinton Foundation was hacked into, and the Democrats were terrified about the emails because the emails could have and may have indicated that there was a quid pro quo, that foreign governments were making donations to the Clinton Foundation in exchange for special favors. The Democrats were panicking. That's in the piece. Who do you think is representing, as a lawyer, the Clinton Foundation in this case? Put up the quote from the piece. You can't make it up, folks. Oh, there she is again. Former White House counselor Kathy Rumler, the Clinton Foundation's principal lawyer. Nora, spokeswoman for the foundation, responded to requests for comment on the hack or the precautions the organizations had taken. Oh, Dan Halper, New York Post. Wow. Isn't that great? So now we have Catherine Rumler, who's representing a cooperator in the Mueller investigation into Trump. It's a collusion with the Russians that never happened. While collusion with foreign governments and the Clinton Foundation that may have happened is being represented by Kathy Rumler, who was also involved in the IRS scandal, the Benghazi scandal, the Clinton Foundation debacle. By the way, the Secret Service sex scandal. Well, I didn't even get to that one. I covered that one on my podcast earlier today if you're interested, but we are short on time. I wanted to get to the big ones here. She's also representing Susan Rice, who's being accused of spying on the Trump team because they were colluding with the Russians when they weren't. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Put up that AM Law Daily piece that I found, that I dug up. It's interesting who Rumler replaced at the White House. Kathy Rumler joined the White House as chief counsel. She replaced a guy named Bob Bauer, who left to rejoin, what? Wait, what is that? Perkins Coie? So the guy she replaces, the fixer, she replaces Bob Bauer. Bob Bauer leaves to go rejoin Perkins Coie. Oh, you mean the law firm that paid Fusion GPS to dig up the fake Russian dossier information? You mean that law firm, Perkins Coie? Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here at all. This really happened. I'm not making this up. By the way, dispute any of this. You can dispute the fact that these people, how deeply involved they may have been in this. You can't dispute the fact that they know each other, have professional relationships, are conflicted, and have been involved in this, because I'm using left-leaning outlets to show you what I'm telling you is absolutely true. She replaced Bob Bauer and the White House counsel. He goes over to join Perkins Coie, the exact same firm that pays Fusion GPS through the Clinton campaign, by the way, to go dig up fake foreign intel on Barack Obama. Now, just as a side note, Who did Bob Bauer replace as Obama's White House lawyer? He replaced Greg Craig. Greg Craig, who was Clinton's lawyer when he was being impeached, who was intimately familiar with how to impeach a president, by the way. Where did Greg Craig go? Greg Craig went to a law firm called Skadden. It's got Skadden, and 15,000 other people. We'll just stick with Skadden for the sake of time. Put that other headline up. Bloomberg. Mueller's move on ex-Skadden lawyer puts heat on Manafort and Gates. What? So there's another guy, are you telling me, from the Obama White House that is somehow connected to this investigation? Mueller's team recently arrested and is prosecuting a guy right now, Alexander van der Schwan, who worked at that very same corporation with Greg Craig, who ran an investigation for Paul Manafort and produced a report about a Ukrainian election and the trial of one of the Ukrainian president's political opposition, political opponents, excuse me. I was tongue-tied on that one. Folks, do you see how deeply conflicted all of these people are with this special counsel, with this investigation? You see how deep the swamp is? Now, let me tie this together for you, because I still haven't told you the connection through Rumler and Mueller. When Bob Mueller was the FBI director, one of the most significant investigations they conducted was the Enron investigation, which turned out to be a disaster later on. A lot of the convictions were overturned. Who led the Enron task force? Andy Weissman. Andy Weissman is Bob Mueller's pit bull, his number 2, right now on the special counsel investigation. Bob Mueller picked Andy Weissman, again, to go after Donald Trump. Who were Andy Weissman's lawyers on the Enron case that Bob Mueller was involved in as well, the FBI? Kathy Rumler? Yes. Kathy Rumler, Obama's lawyer, Obama's White House counsel, intimately involved, who's now defending someone Mueller's using to cooperate against the Trump team, George Nader, who was involved with the IRS, was involved with the Benghazi debacle, was involved with the Solyndra debacle, the Secret Service scandal, all of it. She replaced Bob Bauer. Bob Bauer's over at Perkins Coie. They hired people, Fusion GPS, to go dig up information on Trump. Folks, this thing stinks to the heavens. Now, it gets better. In that initial headline in the Daily Caller, I showed you a picture of 3 people. It wasn't just Kathy Rumler. You've already seen a hint of the Susan Rice connection, but I showed you a couple other folks that were in that picture as well. The other person in that picture is significant. Oh, thanks. You guys are slick over there in the studio. Thanks for doing that. That person directly to Obama's left is Lisa Monaco. Now, just to be clear, please don't lose me in this. Watch this episode twice if you have to. Bob Mueller's investigating Trump. Keep that up for a second, that picture. Mueller's investigating Trump. He chooses Andrew Weissman as his bulldog in the case. Andrew Weissman, who he's worked with before in an Enron case. On the Enron case, Andrew Weissman's lawyers were the 2 women seated to the left and the right of Barack Obama. I'm not kidding. The Enron attorneys working for Weissman and with Mueller on that case were Rumler to the right and Lisa Monaco to the left, Obama's Homeland Security and Counterterrorism advisor. Folks, they all know Mueller. They're all buddies. The conflicts are... How can you possibly be buddies and chums investigating Russian collusion, the Obama administration, Russian interference, which happened, but collusion with the Trump team that didn't? The Obama team did nothing about before the election. And how can you investigate Obama's political opponent, Donald Trump, using people who are representing other people who are deeply conflicted and you already know them from a prior case? Folks, a little bit about Lisa Monaco. Put up that Washington Post headline. Secret CIA assessment says Russia was trying to help Trump win the White House. Wow, this was from December, right after the election, December of 2016. The Washington Post got a real scoop that the Russians were, colluding with Trump. The fairy tale starts, right? Who's quoted in this piece? Put that quote up from this Washington Post piece. You're going to get a kick out of this. It never ends, folks. I could do this all day. We may have crossed into a new threshold. It is incumbent upon us to take stock of that, to review, to conduct some after action, to understand what has happened, and to impart some lessons learned. Who said that? Lisa Monaco. Quoted in the piece as she told the Christian Science Monitor. So Lisa Monaco understood that they had to take some kind of action to what these Russians did. Listen, Russia's not our friend. It's never been our friend. There's no question they've been intruding into our elections for as long as they've been breathing. But the Trump collusion fairy tale, which is the headline of that piece, fascinating that they cite Lisa Monaco in a speech to the Christian Science Monitor, who worked for Andy Weissman, who is now running the investigation into Donald Trump. Now, the relationship between Monaco and Mueller is even more fascinating. Would you believe it if I told you Lisa Monaco was Bob Mueller's old chief of staff? Yes, Lisa Monaco, Obama's counterterrorism and homeland security advisor, who replaced John Brennan, who went over to the CIA and pushed this Trump collusion narrative to senators and congressmen up on the Hill, getting them to investigate Trump, getting them to push the FBI, the senators and congressmen to push the FBI into investigating a collusion fairy tale that never happened. That was done by Brennan, who Monaco replaced in the White House, who was Bob Mueller's chief of staff. Little bit of a conflict here. What if Bob Mueller finds information implicating Lisa Monaco, Susan Rice, and Catherine Rumler in the Obamagate spying scandal? There's no question they spied on Trump. Nobody's disputing that. Folks, this is not some David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson, X-Files conspiracy theory. These are basic, brutal conflicts of interest that should tell you that Mueller was probably appointed for a reason. To keep the attention on Trump and keep the attention off of Rumler, Monaco, Brennan, and the White House. We don't see any of them now under indictment for false statements or anything like that. How is that? It's only been Trump people. You may say, oh, well, because Trump people did something wrong. Really? You should tell Jim Comey that. Because they arrested Mike Flynn, prosecuted Mike Flynn, despite the fact that they said they thought Mike Flynn wasn't being dishonest in his interview. Someone should have informed the FBI he did something wrong. Even more interesting about Lisa Monaco. Lisa Monaco held a position after that chief of staff job with Bob Mueller. Lisa Monaco was the Department of Justice head of the National Security Division. That's the division that vets information, one of the final sign-offs on information, foreign intel that could be used in the FISA courts. Now, Lisa Monaco didn't sign off on the dossier's information. She was gone by that point. Who took Lisa Monaco's spot in the Department of Justice National Security Division and ultimately signed off on the information used to spy on the Trump team that turned out in the dossier to later be false? John Carlin. Who's John Carlin, you ask? John Carlin is the guy who took Lisa Monaco's spot in Bob Mueller's office. John Carlin was Bob Mueller's chief of staff. Folks, there was no better guy with no deeper swamp connections to run an investigation into the Trump team. Clearly and purposefully, I think at this point, it's obvious, designed to cover up for the misdeeds of the Obama administration. The connections to the swamp are deep. The connections to the swamp are profound. This is one of the most troubling cases I've ever seen in my lifetime, folks. It is clear to me now that this was always an investigation targeted at a person, which was later on going to go search for a crime. Not a crime in search of the people later on who committed it. Let me just sum this up for you because I have one final story for the day on a little lighter note on Friday. But I don't want to leave you. If you have to watch this show, please watch it twice. It's important. I don't want to leave you with any small ounce of confusion about what I'm saying here. What I'm trying to tell you, if you listen to this show, is that of all the people to investigate alleged Russian collusion that we now, I think it's crystal clear, did not happen with the Trump team. There's no evidence of that. It's yet to surface. It's been almost 2 years. Of all the people, Bob Mueller had some of the most significant conflicts around and yet was picked anyway. Why was he picked? He was picked because there was no way Bob Mueller was going to go after his old buddies in the White House who were involved in this case. Bob Mueller had a hand in picking Kathy Rumler to work with Andy Weissman, who's now going after Trump. Rumler was involved in all of these White House debacles I just told you about. Lisa Monaco worked with Trump. She was one of Obama's right-hand women. She had to know what was going on when they were spying on Trump. And yet she has personal relationships and professional relationships with Bob Mueller. This guy was deeply conflicted from the start, and that was the point. Make all of this stuff go away. All of it. Keep the focus on Trump at all times. It's a troubling case, folks. I think about it all the time. It takes up all my time. I've become slightly obsessed with it, to be honest with you. Because Lady Justice is clearly not blind anymore. They're only blind to Democrats. All right. On a little bit of a lighter note, because it is Friday, and I don't want to turn you over into the weekend all depressed about what happened, because I do think there'll be some action on this. I think Bob Mueller's in a lot of trouble. I don't think Rod Rosenstein, the deputy, is going to be able to survive this. Let's go to a new segment I'm introducing. New, because it's only probably for this show. I can't imagine we'll repeat this unless another story comes up about this specific wonderful topic. This is Dan Bongino's take on steak.
Ooh, yummy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yummy. Yeah, baby. We love steak. I'm a meat-eating son of a... Yes. I love meat. I love animals, too. They're great. I love animals, but I like cows a lot. They taste really good. So steak is one of my personal favorites. So I read this story in the New York Post. Restaurants are cooking your steak wrong on purpose. They're bringing it out a little rarer than you asked for. Why are they doing that? Because if it's too well done, they have to throw it out. If it's too rare, they can go and cook it a little more. Yeah, why am I bringing this up? Because I want to send a personal thank you to the steak chefs of America for saving people from their own horrible steak choices. You can't eat a well-done steak. That ain't right. That's a hockey puck. Shoe leather. That's no good. NG. You don't do that. You can't go into either the Outback or Charlie Palmer's Steakhouse and get a well-done steak. It is, I even wrote this down to make sure I left the week with this note. You are doing a disservice to cows, God's gift to us all across the world, by eating a well-done steak. So thank you to the restaurateurs and steak chefs across the country purposefully undercooking steak and saving people from their own disastrous meat decisions. Love you, fellas and ladies. All right, thanks again for tuning in. It's been another great week of shows. I appreciate all your feedback. Give me a follow there at Dan Bongino on Twitter and at NRATV on Twitter as well. I'll see you all on Monday.